It was standard practice to repeat the entire exposition so that the audience could hear all of the main materials again before plunging into the central development section, where Beethoven uses a device that's very common with composers, many of whom struggled with the process of true symphonic writing. It's taking a theme from the exposition. Say, take our main theme. And many composers in the coming years would fall back on this device because it's all they knew how to do. Simply repeat the theme in different keys and with different accompaniments. So this might become this. Or maybe this, etc. And you just kind of go around the block several times in different keys. Now, Beethoven will do more than this in his development section, but still, he's basically relied on this device, as you will hear. By comparison, the first movement development of Haydn's Symphony 102 that we examined was much more inventive than this. But Beethoven was just starting out here, still finding himself at age 29. So never fear. Things would begin to change in his next symphony. So here is Beethoven's central development section as it occurs, and I'll call out the events as they happen. Here's the main theme. It's repeated now in sequences. Here it's in D major, now in G major, and leading to a shadowy C minor. And there's the ascending triads. The triads continue through various harmonic regions. And here's that connecting theme, now in E flat major, with its downward scale. Now the main theme is passed around in the woodwinds and the low strings. It's a sequence now in F minor. Now we're in G minor. And now the main theme in a new version. In this woodwind phrase, it's taken from the slow introduction. We're in the key of A minor, and we cadence now in a big unison E. And now the outline of the dominant chord. And our recapitulation in the full orchestra.
I think that's a masterclass in first movement writing.
That's right.
Yeah, a symphony. Yeah, there's nothing you can. There's no flaw. It's perfect. It's so perfect.
Absolutely perfectly proportionate, and Beethoven was a very good mathematician, so he counted the measures to keep the proportions where they should be, and he was a child of enlightenment, as Larry mentioned in the previous program we saw, and the enlightenment was fascination with the Greek concepts of proportion and harmonious relations between parts within the whole, and of course one of the forefront ideas in there was of the golden cut, the proportion, the arch development, and the musicians spent quite a bit of approaching music scientifically. The development of the music through the time scientifically, the tempos and the metronomes were a big part and always are. So the number of measures and the developing towards the climax, the length of the climax proportionate to the climb up to the climax, then decline that proportion to the previous two, and so forth, and it all expressed itself in measures vice versa, tempo of the movement, number of the beats, and all that. So there's a lot of that background, and Beethoven definitely was aware of that. Like sometimes it feels like, well, why did he add all these additional, seemingly unnecessary chords at the end? Well. Don't we all feel like, if you take them out, it feels incomplete? Part of the reason of that, he arrived at the tonic, and there's still a couple of measures left to complete the proportion, so he just adds the chords.
Yeah, it's really quite fascinating to see him approach music like this, because this sort of approach to music it's done often with Bach's music, this idea of proportion. And I think Bach, also a fantastic mathematician and a genius of proportion, understood a lot of these, how important it is. And I'm really glad you bring it up, because I think as much as music is in the space of time, but it also exists in this in the dimension of space. It takes up sort of room in our mind, in the way we envision it, and it's really quite an intangible, invisible thing when you play music, because you're not really doing anything physically, in terms of creating something physically, but you have something on paper, or you play something and it exists in time and then it disappears. And so to have proportion within that is very likened to this sort of architects of music idea, the architecture that is built. And of course, you don't really see it. If only we could see music in terms of architectural buildings, it would be very fascinating to see how Symphony Number 1 looks compared to Symphony Number 5 looks.
As the main theme now will propel us through to the end, and you'll hear the grand, sustained expanse of C major hovering throughout the entire orchestra, with the main theme chugging away underneath, and the rising triad everywhere. And this is so similar to the end of the Mozart Symphony 34 first movement that we've explored, and I didn't plan it this way. But the carry-through of the Mozartean model in its design, its spirit, and its sound is remarkable. Here's the coda now to the first movement.
Just like Lawrence Rapchak pointed out, the first symphony was very much confined to the rules of the time of creating the symphony. However, there are some elements within that very prescribed structure, which Beethoven basically laid down the grid and filled it with his own thematic material. There's still a lot of sort of peek previews at his innovativeness, which is going to show much later down the road. And I wanted also to bring back the thought of music and mathematics and music and architecture and engineering. A lot of bias, and I believe that's a misconception, is that music lives in a different part of the brain, and musicians are poor mathematicians, and they're not so impractical, and they don't know how to count money and that kind of stuff. History proves that being just a misconception over and again. And with those lectures of Lawrence Rapchak unveiling the inner workings of Beethoven, how he prepares the grid, how he structures it, how he deals with a balance of different proportions, lengths, and ranges, and all that. It's not intuitive. I mean, it's intuitive too, but there's a lot of abstract thinking involved. Let's say mathematics in its purest form is abstract. So is music, in a way. But that's where the two definitely converge in our creative process, and it's very interesting. And I think it's in addition to that being just interesting as a information, I think it's a good life lesson to people who are trying to be practical with what they encounter, not just being consumers, but learn lessons from everything they encounter, including Beethoven's music, something which can help them realize themselves in the spheres. Because if you think, okay, I'm very mathematical, therefore I'm never going to play violin. Maybe you're going to play violin very well if you try it, if you didn't have that bias. You know what I mean?
The second movement is the traditional slow movement of the symphony, and it's written in a sort of gallant rococo style, the pleasant, easy listening that was preferred by the nobility of the classical era. No need for Beethoven to go against the grain too much at this point in his career. The second movement is an andante. It moves along in a rather genteel, breezy, rather brisk way in this performance, you'll hear. It's in a moderate triple meter with 3 beats to the measure, and it's in the key of F major, which is now the tonic, the main key of this movement. And you'll hear the first theme start unaccompanied in the second violins, and then you'll hear the violas and celli enter like so. And did you hear what Beethoven did there? The second violin started with the theme in the tonic key, the key of F major, unaccompanied. Then the violas and celli entered in C major, which is the dominant key. As the violins went on to play against them. Then there was a brief link, and we returned to F major as the violins and woodwinds took up the melody. If this sounds familiar, it should. It's the exact same format that we saw in the fugue that we discussed in Dvorak. But Beethoven's second movement is not a fugue, but he uses the standard fugal technique to introduce his main theme.
Wow. So good to hear Larry's explanations again. It's really comes down to this little, what he says, building an entire movement brick by brick, and you get to see these little bricks emerge and just develop.
Yeah, that's right. It's like looking at a magnificent building built by a genius architect, and then having someone giving you a tour of how everything interlocks in there to make it that good.
Yeah.
And with that in light, I want us to maybe explore a question which I always had, especially as a student, and I have a couple of answers, but I want to hear yours first. In this symphony and in many other works, Beethoven obviously is using all very standard and very common compositional techniques, doesn't he? Yet, being musicians, of course, most of us are, if not all of us, are able to recognize within a few seconds that the piece presented is by Beethoven and not by Haydn, or not by Mozart, and not by Clementi, not by any one of the other contemporaries to the Beethoven, but by Beethoven, even if we don't know the piece. Now, the most amazing thing, I always had that question, especially by Beethoven, but other composers too. But I like to ask people questions. So I ask that question of people who are not professional musicians. Are you able to recognize if this is Beethoven or not? Of course, it's a more simple question. Who is this composer? Like quizzing people on that is harder. But if you play something and do you think it's Beethoven or not? And a lot of times people who are not familiar intimately with compositional technique and all that stuff, they still can immediately pinpoint, I think that's Beethoven. So what do you think? How does that happen? Especially in the first symphony, that's kind of subtle and hard to find.
It's hard. I mean, I think this second movement, I would not attribute immediately to something that's Beethoven in first listening. There are some things that make you think of it, the way he uses rhythm, the way he cadences. He really likes this idea of repeating the dominant chord, or even if you resolve the tonic, to repeat that a lot as if to establish it, and then he kind of moves on and uses one note from that tonic to lead into something else. So there are signs of his, but I think in this, just as Larry Rapchak says, it's this sort of he's playing a little safe, I would say. It's a rococo kind of diversion. It's safe, but he's still in complete control of what he's doing.
The theme alone in the second violins. Now the violas and cellos enter. in the dominant key of C with the theme. Here's a brief transition. And now the theme in F major, the tonic key with the full orchestra. But now, as things progress, we notice more interesting features. The theme you've just heard cadences in C major. That's the dominant key of F. And a new theme is heard now, also very graceful and charming, and also in C major. And this leads to a bridge passage, which sounds like a little military fanfare. And finally, another theme in C major, very delicate, with the timpani, the kettle drums, used in a very unusual way to delineate the rhythm in the violin and flute. The bum, ba bum, ba bum, bum.
I have a specific measure in which, even if I didn't know that this piece at all, if I heard it for the first time, there is a specific moment at which I would be left with no doubt this is Beethoven. Do you have that?
Okay.
You don't have that? I'm asking you a question. If you,
I don't know. I can't.
No,
I can't.
you-
I mean,
you can't-
knowing it.
Interesting.
No, can you?
Yeah, well,
what is-
now
what
I
is
know
yours?
I know the symphony, but even if I didn't,
The second
we're-
movement. You're talking about the second movement.
Second,
yeah.
just the second.
Yeah.
The second movement is probably would be the hardest to identify because it's just so standard, right? And it's so seemingly, conventional to the period and everything. But there's one moment in there where he goes to the D flat major. Which is no big deal either, it's lots of composers.
Generally
have done it.
speaking, right?
Generally
Yeah.
speaking. But the way he goes in there, and then the
Yeah.
way he adds that timpani on the very low register,
Right.
the way he stretches the registers, all of a sudden, just like you said, something was brewing, and then explosively expands into that unusual key. And, even in the score, you see very thin score, and then suddenly it's the entire orchestra doing that D flat major, and then timpani starts taking
Yes.
over with the rhythm. I think that's a signature of Beethoven.
And as we now continue into what must be a central development section, Beethoven uses that little two-note motive, ba-dum, ba-dum, to seamlessly move us into the remote key of D flat major, like so. And that timpani rhythm that we heard a while ago, bum, ba bum, ba bum, now takes over the entire orchestra. And these two motives, the little two-note motive and that clipped timpani rhythm, bum, ba bum, ba bum, they are it. The entire development section consists of just these two things. And the recapitulation now is essentially the exposition repeated, but we stay in the tonic key of F major. But notice how Beethoven is now writing in a true symphonic way by using those two little motives. The first two notes, and the timpani rhythm. Bum, ba, bum, bum. He uses these two seemingly insignificant little trifles to build the entire movement, brick by brick, as it were. This is very significant. Beethoven using this complex method he inherited from Haydn to construct this deceptively simple Rococo-ish diversion. Beethoven may have been playing it safe to a degree in this work, but he was acquiring total control of his music and his destiny as a composer.